While Wonder Woman was in the middle of an intense workout, her peaceful routine gets interrupted by something unusual. A goat strolls into her space, and speaking through it is her mother, Queen Hippolyta. Hippolyta tells Diana she has a problem. Wonder Woman, not even breaking form mid-rep, replies with a simple, "Yes, mother." Hippolyta explains she woke up that morning to find someone in her bed. Diana offers a deadpan, "Congratulations," assuming maybe it was just some post-party affair. But her mother quickly clarifies. She had been out at one of Dionysus's infamous bacchanals, which are essentially god-level wild parties. Things got hazy after all the wine, and she doesn't remember every detail. The whole point of those nights is to loosen up, let go of the divine, and enjoy life. Except this time, she woke up to Ares, the god of war. That immediately gets Diana's attention. But before she can jump to conclusions, Hippolyta tells her to quit judging like a perfect little princess. Then she drops the bombshell. Ares is dead. And the very dagger Diana used to play with as a child, the one Hippolyta keeps by her bedside for nostalgia's sake, is now buried in Ares' back. Things have gotten messy. Even by Olympus standards, waking up next to a god you might have accidentally murdered is awkward. The queen insists she doesn't think she did it, but the situation is bad enough that she needs her daughter's help. She wants Diana to come to Olympus to try to figure out what really happened. Wonder Woman decides to enlist some help and visits Batman. Predictably, his first response is a grumpy, "Why me?" Diana reminds him that he is the world's greatest detective, and she needs his brain. Batman reminds her that the title only applies to this world. Diana wasn't there for banter, though. She told him she's not here to argue. Batman quickly figured out the real reason for her visit. "You're here for your mother." Diana reflected on that, noting how even when our parents leave us, they never truly go away. Batman then asked the big question, did she really kill Ares? Diana admitted she didn't know. Without needing further convincing, Batman offered to drive. They hopped into the Batmobile and headed out. During the ride, he asked how far they were going. Diana simply told him to keep driving, but Batman pointed out that the road dead-ended in about a mile, meaning continuing forward would take them straight into Gotham River. But Diana tells him that either he has faith or he doesn't. Batman fires back that her gods aren't his gods. Diana then asks what church the Batman attends. Bruce just says, "God isn't in church, he's in the alley." Diana calmly tells him it's just a little further. He'll see soon enough. The Batmobile tears through a relentless storm. Through the blur of rainfall and shadows, a hidden city slowly emerges. The Batmobile slows to a halt in front of its gates. Batman asks if this place is always here, and Wonder Woman gives a cryptic answer. It is both always and never here. They're immediately met by a priest who loudly announces that their Holy One demands a sacrifice. But Wonder Woman has no patience for this. She tells the priest not to start with all that because he already knows they're coming. The priest, however, isn't convinced. He says the divine being may be expecting her, but Batman is another matter. Still holding her patience, Diana jokes that she didn't bring a cow or a chicken in the Batmobile, so what exactly does he expect her to offer? The priest, however, remarks that expectations for a daughter of a godslayer aren't particularly high. That jab crosses the line. Diana, locking eyes with the priest, declares that she sacrifices this moment of peace in the temple of the Lord. She punches him hard in the face, knocking him to the ground. Blood spills from his mouth and she stands over him and declares that this blood is now dedicated to Zeus's thunder. And if that offering isn't enough, she's more than willing to continue until it is. Inside the temple, Zeus sits on his throne looking down from above. He notices Batman and addresses him by name, seemingly amused. Wonder Woman explains that they're here to solve a mystery and, as she puts it, who better than the world's greatest detective? Zeus, though, isn't interested in wordplay. He cuts to the point. Her mother, Hippolyta, has committed murder, and there will be consequences. Batman steps in with a question. Is this even murder? After all, Greek gods don't die in the traditional sense. They go to Hades. Zeus clarifies that Ares, his son, is indeed with Hades now, and calling that murder is being generous. Diana quickly defends her mother, saying she claims innocence, but Zeus isn't swayed. He sarcastically compares his belief in Hippolyta's innocence to his own so-called loyalty in his wife. Sometimes gods are noble, he says, and other times they're just swans hiding in the high grass. Diana asks what the punishment will be, and Zeus responds without hesitation, "What else? Mortality." Diana counters, asking for just one day, 24 hours, and the power to investigate. She promises to find the real killer. Zeus is unimpressed and asks what benefit that brings him. Diana makes it clear. If he pushes forward with punishing Hippolyta, he risks a rebellion among the Amazons. They won't quietly accept their savior being condemned by the gods. Zeus jokes that an Amazon war with the gods must mean it's Tuesday. Batman decides to speak directly to Zeus, calling him divinity, and asks if Zeus knows who he is. Zeus replies yes, he knows exactly who Batman is. There are men, there are gods, and then there is Batman. Batman then makes a bold offer. Give them 24 hours to solve the mystery. If they fail, Zeus's priests are free to sacrifice him in his honor. Wonder Woman, shocked, immediately protests, but Zeus, intrigued, smiles and accepts. Outside, Batman and Diana regroup. Batman wants to know if being granted access to the gods mean they're obligated to tell the truth. Diana clarifies that while the gods can't refuse Zeus, they can lie to him. Batman asks about her lasso. Diana admits she's not certain if it'll work. After all, the lasso itself is a divine gift. That uncertainty doesn't stop Batman. He says they'll do this the old-fashioned way. Gather evidence, observe, and draw conclusions. Diana, sitting beside him in the Batmobile, softly repeats the ticking clock, 24 hours. Then she turns to Bruce and quietly thanks him. Batman nods, starts the engine, and drives off. Batman and Wonder Woman make their way to see Hippolyta, Diana's mother, who is currently imprisoned after the whole Ares incident. Batman gets right to the point, asking how many times Ares has tried to kill Diana. Hippolyta answers plainly, many. He follows up by asking if she'd want vengeance for those repeated attempts on her daughter's life, but Hippolyta brushes that off, saying vengeance is for the petty, and she's an Amazon. Batman tries again, reframing it not as vengeance, but as justice. That doesn't land much better. Hippolyta, unimpressed, questions whether this is really the man Diana chose to bring, someone who clearly doesn't grasp Amazonian culture. But Diana defends him, saying her mother wouldn't act out of a momentary grudge or rage, only out of the deeper motivation of love. Batman then adds that Hippolyta wouldn't kill Ares for what he has done, but for what he might still do to Diana. That comment lands. Hippolyta finally cracks a bit, admitting with a calm smile that while she dreams of Ares' death every night, only yesterday did she finally wake up to that dream being fulfilled. Later, outside another massive gate, Diana brings up the basics of any crime: motive, opportunity, means. She says it's all very simple. Batman, always wary of anything labeled simple, says that simplicity can be seductive. It makes investigators overlook the real complexities. He suggests that maybe this is all part of a larger play. Maybe someone wants to set Hippolyta up as a scapegoat, take her down, make her lose her godhood. He calls her a clever woman, and Diana agrees, sometimes. Other times, not so much. As they wait, a man finally steps out to greet them, saying, "He'll see you now." This is apparently a rare honor, since he doesn't usually entertain people who are sober. That makes it pretty obvious who they're about to meet. The man calls out to Dionysus, saying his guests have arrived. The god of wine is lounging in a bath, munching on grapes, completely relaxed. He greets them and, true to form, immediately offers them wine. Later, while pouring more wine, Dionysus casually mentions that Hippolyta was definitely drunk the night in question, a state he seems to fully endorse as a truly delightful place to be. Batman asks if she left the gathering with Ares, and Dionysus shrugs it off, saying that Ares isn't exactly Hippolyta's type. So Diana pushes. If not her, then who did Ares leave with? Dionysus dodges the question and reminds them that he's the god of pleasure, and with that title comes a very valuable skill: discretion. But Diana isn't having it. She takes the whole bottle, asks if she may pour him another glass, and when he responds by questioning why she hasn't already, she smashes the bottle on his head without hesitation. It shatters, sending Dionysus crashing down, screaming in agony. Standing over him, Wonder Woman makes her point. He may be the god of pleasure, but that means he has no concept of pain, which makes this moment particularly effective. She tells Batman to ask his questions now. If Dionysus answers, she'll stop the pain. Batman tries to caution her, but Diana cuts him off, reminding him that in a matter of hours, he could end up nothing more than a sacrificial offering on some divine altar. Dionysus, completely overwhelmed, screams in confusion. He doesn't understand what's happening. Batman, keeping his cool, repeats the question, "Who did Ares leave with?" That's all they need to know. The god is breaking down. He begs them to stop and finally confesses that Ares left with Aphrodite. That was the last he saw of them. He cries out again, begging for mercy, pleading with them to end the pain. Wonder Woman delivers a swift kick to his head, knocking him out cold. She looks down at him and says, "There, isn't that better?" Later, as they walk up a long flight of stairs, Batman breaks the silence by asking if they should talk about it. Wonder Woman doesn't hesitate. She says she doesn't care for these people. Batman reminds her, "You're Wonder Woman. You care for everyone." But Diana explains that all her life, she's watched the gods bicker and argue over meaningless things while the mortals below cry out for help. They sit above it all, detached and aloof, only ever showing interest when it involves games, contests, or attractive mortals, or some effort to stroke their egos. The gods, she says, see humans as entertainment. But humans in their most desperate moments look up and see gods as hope. Batman then points out, "But you're fighting for your mother to stay among them." Wonder Woman doesn't deny it. She calls them fools, all of them, and says her mother is just another fool for thinking she can make them better. Let the gods keep each other company, she says. She'll keep her own. Eventually, they arrive at the home of Aphrodite. The goddess of love greets them with a sultry stirring of flirtatious words, noting just how pretty Batman is. Batman, staying focused, addresses her directly and asks about the night of the Bacchanal, specifically where she went after leaving with Ares. But Aphrodite, being who she is, doesn't go straight to the answer. She instead walks closer, asking if Batman would take off his mask. She says she'd love to see the rest of his face. Before it goes any further, Wonder Woman sharply cuts in, reminding Aphrodite that they're here for answers. Aphrodite finally replies, saying that she and Ares went back to her place and had a good time, and then he left. She casually adds, "Who cares?" showing no concern at all. As she speaks, she leans in and removes Batman's mask herself. Upon hearing Ares is dead, her response is a casual, "Oh no." Then, while still holding the mask, she says that she's unsure how she'll enjoy herself now. Wonder Woman calls her out, asking if she's not married. Aphrodite doesn't deny it. She owns it completely, admitting she is married but brushing it off like it's unimportant. She even mocks the idea that Diana is shocked. Batman follows up by asking where her husband, Hephaestus, was during that night. She responds vaguely, saying he was probably at his workshop and came home in the morning, which is his usual routine. Wonder Woman asks how he acted when she saw him. Was he upset? Aphrodite just shrugs it off again, saying that the god of fire is always upset, whether he has a reason or not. Then she kisses Batman on the lips. With a little smirk and a teasing bite of her lip, she tells him that whatever he wants, whenever he wants it, the answer will always be yes. Batman remains quiet, but Wonder Woman lets out a long, tired sigh. After they leave, walking back down the stairs, Wonder Woman starts forming a new theory. Maybe it's simple again. She suggests that Hephaestus found out that Aphrodite's affair with Ares acted out of passion, killed Ares, and then framed Hippolyta for the crime. It would all make sense. Now, she says, they have to find Hephaestus, the god of fire, and speak with him directly. But mid-thought, she notices something strange. Batman has stopped walking. He's looking over his shoulder, back up the stairs behind him, staring into the distance. She asks if something is wrong. He says no, but his voice is distracted. She asks again if they can continue. He just says, "What?" She looks at him, clearly frustrated, and wonders aloud, "Must all men be men?" Before she can finish the thought, a bolt of lightning suddenly tears through the sky and slams directly into Batman's chest. He screams in agony as the energy surges through him. Wonder Woman, horrified, shouts out in shock. Later, Wonder Woman storms into Zeus's chamber. She confronts him directly, telling him that one of his bolts struck Batman, but Zeus says the bolt was stolen and that they're looking into it. Wonder Woman, not willing to accept that casual dismissal, reminds him that Batman could have died. But Zeus replies that all mortals die. It's their defining trait, what makes them special. That answer doesn't land well. Diana is furious. She points out that Batman was under his sacred protection. Zeus shrugs it off again and simply repeats that the matter is under investigation. She walks away, refusing to argue further with a god who clearly has little concern for the lives beneath him. As she leaves, Zeus reminds her that this incident doesn't change anything about the contract. There is still 12 hours left. Either she brings the truth or offers a sacrifice. Wonder Woman is now at Batman's bedside. He's laying down, weak and recovering from the lightning that nearly killed him. Despite the pain, he's trying to lighten the mood. He weakly jokes that at least they're looking into it. Wonder Woman, surprised to hear any humor from him, remarks on the rare joke. Batman insists he jokes all the time, claiming he has a fine sense of humor. She teases him back, placing a damp cloth gently on his forehead, questioning if he really does. Batman throws it right back. "You're not exactly a barrel of laughs." She gives him a soft smile, saying at least she smiles, unlike him. Batman says Clark smiles, but Diana, she doesn't just smile, she glows. That line makes her pause. She asks if that's another joke, but Batman then says, "Can I tell you a secret? You asked me about God. I lied. He isn't in the alley. I wasn't raised with much religion, but I felt as a boy that there was something good above us. And then my parents, they were so kind, and they died while I watched. What kind of a god would do that?" As his voice trembles, he lifts his hand slightly, and Diana reaches out, holding it between both of hers. He says that after that night, after losing his parents, he realized there was nothing above him, just sky. But then he met her. Diana's eyes begin to well up, tears start forming. Batman continues, "You were kind, like mother and father come along. Diana, after knowing you, I went home and looked up and I prayed." Later, Wonder Woman lights candles and she calls out to Hera, to Zeus, to all the gods of the Hellenic pantheon. She makes no grand poetic speech, just a direct, raw vow. Whoever hurt her mother, whoever hurt her friend, she will find them, and when she does, she promises they will endure a pain unlike anything ever known. She's ready now to finish what she started. Wonder Woman visits her mother, who immediately asks where her sidekick is. Diana corrects her, saying he's not a sidekick, but a partner. Hippolyta observes that Diana has spent her life among men and yet still seems to understand nothing about them. Diana, in return, points out that Batman believes Hippolyta may have actually committed the murder, that all the complications and confusions are just a veil for the simplest explanation. Hippolyta doesn't deny the accusation outright, but instead gives a cryptic answer, saying that men are always either above or below you, and everything else is just play. When Diana presses her on how clever she really is, Hippolyta responds, stating that if she had killed Ares, she wouldn't have used Hephaestus' dagger. She would have ripped his heart out with her bare hands. This unexpected mention of Hephaestus catches Diana's attention completely. Determined to get more answers, Diana pays a visit to Hephaestus, but he is far from welcoming. He brushes her off, saying he's busy and telling her to leave. But Diana isn't there for pleasantries. She throws it back at him that his dagger was found in the back of a dead god. That's not something you just shrug off. She reminds him that they used to be close. He was someone she trusted. So why now? Why is he acting like this? But he just repeats himself. He's busy and she should leave. Diana has had enough. "No thank you," she says, and in a flash she throws the very dagger in question, stabbing it through his hand. Hephaestus screams out in pain. What has she done? Diana replies saying, "Now, old friend, you're less busy." Hephaestus yells that it was this very hand that helped build her world. She fires right back, the dagger. That's what this is about. He screams again, saying the forger is not responsible for the wielder, but Diana isn't having it. That line, the eternal excuse of the gods, that they create destruction but are never responsible for how it's used. It's worn thin. She slowly pulls the dagger out of his hand as she says the classic godly excuse out loud. "I created you. The rest is not my fault." Hephaestus has clearly had it. He snarls that he's humored her for too long. Now, what's stopping him from smashing her skull in with his hammer? Diana doesn't flinch. She says it's the same thing that's always stopped him, her good fists and his good judgment. He scoffs and turns away, calling her a waste of clay. She fires back, mentioning his wife, which clearly gets under his skin. He mutters that she was a waste of foam, dipping his injured hand into a bucket of water. While she cleans the blood off the dagger, Diana continues pressing. These words, this bitterness, they don't sound like Hephaestus. Something's clearly off. She tells him his wife was at the house during the murder, and since a dagger like this was known to be at her mother's palace, she has to ask, where was he that night? He doesn't answer. Instead, he growls at her to get out. Diana, calm but firm, points out that yelling isn't an answer. He repeats it again, louder this time. "Get out." Then, in a final explosion of anger, he shouts again, "Get out," and this time it feels personal, furious, and defensive. Later, Wonder Woman finds herself at Batman's side. He tells her she did well. Diana tries to gently force him back down, telling him he needs to rest. He obliges, saying, "I'm a superhero. I don't rest." Diana pours him some water and says he can still serve justice, just to do it while laying down with his eyes closed. Batman replies that she may be teasing, but even in this state, he's managed to piece together 3 unrelated cases. Once he's back on his feet, the Riddler is apparently going to have a very bad night. Diana tells him there's something she's been meaning to ask, hoping it won't offend him. Batman then says, "I let Dick choose his own outfit. Who knew he'd go full circus?" But Diana's question goes deeper. She says he's only a man, yet he fights alongside gods. Why? Why put himself through all this? Batman tries to set up, but Diana stops him again, repeating that he needs to stay laying down. He acknowledges her concern, but then quietly asks her to come closer, just for a moment, to rest. And she throws his own line back at him, saying she's a superhero. She doesn't rest either. Batman then wraps his arms around her. He brings up Colonel Steve Trevor. What stuck with him the most wasn't just that Trevor was with Wonder Woman, it was how he responded when others teased him for it. Whenever someone joked that he was just a man dating Wonder Woman, Trevor always had the same line. He'd say the only difference between him and Diana was that he loved her more than the stars and she loved him more than the earth. As Batman says this, Diana's eyes well up. Tears fall silently. Batman continues, "The world is full of gods, Diana. From Clark to Zeus. In the middle of all that nonsense, I just try to be as good a man as I can." He kisses Diana gently on the forehead, as he did. After that, Diana makes her way to the throne of Zeus. There's no time to waste. She approaches him and says she needs more time. Hephaestus had motive, means, and the opportunity to commit the murder. She just needs one more day to prove it, but Zeus doesn't entertain her plea. Zeus remains unmoved and repeats his answer, no. Now frustrated, Wonder Woman appeals to reason, pointing out that Zeus is immortal. What's the rush? What urgency could possibly exist for someone who has eternity? But Zeus answers that she has 3 hours, and then he's taking Batman. No compromise. This is folly, she declares, but Zeus, instead of responding with any seriousness, gives her a smirk and a condescending remark. He says she reminds him of why he enjoys talking to women. They're so amusing when they believe they actually know something. As Wonder Woman walked away from Zeus, frustration welled up inside her. She stepped beside one of the pillars and, unable to contain her anger, struck it with full force. Not stopping there, she began lashing out, smashing and toppling the other pillars in a fit of rage. Just then, a calm but amused voice broke the silence. It warned her that if she kept tearing down pillars, eventually the roof would collapse on her. Wonder Woman muttered if everything had to be a metaphor. The voice belonged to Aphrodite, who appeared as casual as ever, replying that metaphors were basically all gods had left. Curious, Wonder Woman asked what Aphrodite was drinking. Aphrodite answered it was ambrosia. Wonder Woman asked if she could try some, to which Aphrodite offered to find something even stronger. Then Aphrodite brought up the encounter with her husband, saying she heard Wonder Woman had visited him. Wonder Woman didn't sugarcoat it. She had thrown a dagger into Hephaestus' hand. Aphrodite then asks, "And he let you live?" Wonder Woman quickly replied, "I did not require his permission." That earned a big laugh from Aphrodite. Wonder Woman admitted she once thought Hephaestus was different from the other godmen, but now even he seemed just as unknowable. Aphrodite responded that Wonder Woman was basically preaching to someone who already built the temple. She shifted the subject to Ares, the god of war, explaining that while people love to imagine a steamy romance between her and the war god, the truth was quite the opposite. According to her, Ares would come to her chambers often, but not for passion. He came to cry. He wept about the wars he started, the pain he caused, the children caught in the middle. All he wanted was for Aphrodite to hold him. Aphrodite admitted he made her promise to keep it secret. Then she added cheekily, if Wonder Woman saw the dead man again, maybe don't tell him she told. Later, Wonder Woman arrived at the entrance to a sacred garden, but a Roman guard stood firmly in her way. He ordered her to leave, declaring that the god within was not to be disturbed. Wonder Woman walked right up to him. She effortlessly lifted him with one hand and tossed him aside like he weighed nothing. As he scrambled to recover, she knocked off his helmet with a kick and calmly told him, "Yes, it is blasphemy. Now, ask me if I care." Inside the garden, she approached Dionysus. He was already drinking, of course, and mumbled through his wine asking where his guard was. Wonder Woman answered plainly. She had thrown him to the ground and kicked him in the head. Dionysus was mildly outraged, reminding her that the guard had once labored alongside Heracles. Wonder Woman responded with dry sarcasm, promising to be properly impressed the next time, right before throwing him to the ground again and kicking him in the head. Dionysus complained that women didn't belong in the mountain, claiming they didn't understand the order of things. Wonder Woman replied sarcastically, asking him to explain the order. Dionysus dismissed the idea, saying teaching a mule would be more productive because at least the animal would make an amusing sound. Wonder Woman took her tiara off and tossed it high into the air. She informed Dionysus that she had questions and that he better answer quickly. If she didn't catch her tiara when it came back down, it was going to smash into his face. Dionysus was confused, asking what she meant. She clarified. If he didn't talk, he was about to be significantly less beautiful. Dionysus now shouted that as the god of joy, he had the power to take joy away from her. But Wonder Woman, now furious, yelled even louder, pushing her face close to his. She accused the gods of stealing her Stephen, then threatening her with melancholy. She declared she was already in hell, and he will be joining her soon enough. Getting to the point, she told him that Aphrodite liked to drink and he liked to gossip, so she assumed he must know something. Dionysus looked nervously toward the sky, clearly tracking the descending tiara. She pressed further, saying Aphrodite told him about Ares' regrets and he had laughed about it. Dionysus broke, shouting yes, yes, yes. It was coming down fast, and he begged her to stop it. Wonder Woman demanded to know who he had told. Dionysus squirmed, yelling that he had told Hephaestus. He said Hephaestus never indulged in his wine, so he hoped this juicy piece of gossip would drive him to drink. At that moment, Wonder Woman effortlessly caught her tiara before it crashed down and simply said, "Thank you." Wonder Woman pays a visit to Hephaestus. He He doesn't mince words, but bluntly tells her to leave with a harsh, "Fuck off." But Diana doesn't flinch. Calmly, she brings up Dionysus and what he revealed about Aphrodite and Ares. That strikes a nerve. Enraged, Hephaestus lashes out, swinging his hammer at her, but Wonder Woman catches it midair. She confronts him with a pointed observation. It wasn't just a simple affair, was it? This was something else entirely, that only makes Hephaestus more furious. He punches her, yelling at her to shut up, then slams her into the wall. Still, Wonder Woman manages to speak through the pain, piercing her words together, reminding him that it was never about lust. She knew he never cared much for flesh, but what broke him wasn't desire. It was knowing that Aphrodite gave Ares the comfort she never offered him. She held Ares, comforted him when he cried. That vulnerability, that intimacy, that's what Hephaestus couldn't handle. She kicks him straight to the face, driving him to the ground. She tells him that his wife had no time for his problems. But Ares? Ares could pour out his emotions to her. All the while, Hephaestus was left to bottle everything up, alone with his pain. Poor God indeed. But Hephaestus isn't done. He activates a hidden button in his glove. Diana, confused, asks what he did. That's when she notices her harp beginning to move on its own. The very weapon she carries starts wrapping around her throat, choking her. Hephaestus confirms it. He built that harp too. The lasso is strong and it won't take long. He goes on, cruelly revealing that when she sees Ares in the underworld, she can tell him it wasn't Hephaestus who killed him directly. He only informed their father, Zeus, about how Ares had become a weeping disgrace. As the harp tightens around her neck, Wonder Woman grins. Hephaestus mocks her smile, calling her stupid like her mother, but Diana, straining under the harp's grip, clarifies she isn't smiling at death. She's smiling at Batman, standing behind him. Hephaestus is shocked to hear Batman's name. She continues, struggling but confident, that he really believed a woman would come here to face him alone. Of course not. That distraction is enough. Hephaestus, panicking, releases the button controlling the harp and grabs his hammer, demanding Batman to show himself. He roars for the peasant who dared to challenge a god, but before he can react, Wonder Woman smashes her harp-wrapped fist right into his face, simply saying, "Here." Afterward, we see her helping Batman up a flight of stairs. He's still recovering. He asks if Hephaestus really fell for that trick. Diana confirms she had the lasso wrapped around herself. Hephaestus had every reason to believe she was being honest. Batman seems surprised. He assumed the lasso also worked on her. She corrects him. It absolutely does. Its magic is stronger than Olympus itself, but Bruce reflects, not stronger than Diana. She reassures him he's doing well, especially for someone who is just struck by lightning. Batman then asks if she thinks he could ever resist her lasso. Diana answers honestly, no. They soon reach Zeus. Zeus greets them with smug confidence, saying the hour has come. He admits he thought he'd have to hunt them, which he claims would have been fun. But since they've arrived willingly, the sacrifice of Batman will do for entertainment today. Diana doesn't flinch. Instead, she hits him with the truth. He killed his own son. That catches Zeus off guard. He's momentarily silent before brushing it off with a smirk, calling it ridiculous. She recounts how Ares, after all their clashes, finally began to change. He started understanding the pain he caused. He became a god who felt the agony of his victims, a god who actually wept in the arms of a woman. It was a real transformation. He was learning compassion. And that was the problem. Zeus couldn't tolerate his son becoming vulnerable, showing emotion, not being manly, trying to be better. Ares had left Aphrodite's chambers blind drunk. Zeus had taken that opportunity to knock him out and kill him using the dagger Hephaestus had mentioned. He blamed Hippolyta so he could stir Ares' rage again and take revenge for what Diana had done. The whole thing was calculated. Zeus dismisses this explanation as absurd, but Diana presses on, pointing out that his hatred of what he perceives as feminine weakness has blinded him. But for her, it's made everything clear. The fact that Zeus went after Batman instead of her was proof of his warped thinking. He sees men as threats and women as weaknesses, and that prejudice exposed him. Zeus rises from his throne, electricity crackling wildly around him, his pride bruised. He roars at Wonder Woman, demanding how she dare insult him in his own court. At that moment, Batman speaks up and mentions his friend, Boston. He is a man gifted, or perhaps cursed, with the power to speak with the dead, implying that even the dead may soon know of Zeus's secrets if things go further. That really sets Zeus off, and he shouts about strapping Batman to a rock and having birds peck out his eyes for eternity. Wonder Woman demands Zeus release her mother and restore her honor, laying out the stakes. She reminds him that he might not fear war with the Amazons, but a war between gods, father against son, is a different kind of chaos entirely. Zeus lashes out, "I am your deity. I created you. Who the fuck are you?" That's when Diana simply says, "Do you not know, you silly little man? I am Wonder Woman." Later, the dust having settled, they're driving away in the Batmobile with Wonder Woman behind the wheel and Batman in the passenger seat. Batman asks her if she feels satisfied, if this was truly justice. She admits, no, not really. Because if gods were made to suffer for their sins the way mortals do, then the heavens would be nothing more than a symphony of screams. And then she lets down her guard. She confesses that ever since Steve died, something inside her has been burning. A deep anger that hasn't left. It consumes her. And she wonders aloud how to live with it, how to go on. Her voice breaks as the tears start falling. Batman quietly reaches out his hand. "You do it the only way it can be done, which is not to do it alone." The two of them hold hands, a quiet moment of connection between two people who have been through too much and still choose to keep going. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.